We now return to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles of the British Supreme Court, Lord Chief Justice's office. Here's the final draft of the opening address for tomorrow's proceedings. I've supplemented your original with the figures you asked from the yard. I say, excellent work. Thank you. You're welcome, my lord. What's Lord Van Zeek's doing here? My, there seems to be an awful lot of tension in the air, wouldn't you say? This place is stifling enough as it is. We really don't need any more tension. Apologies, I didn't notice you come in. Your small stature and dark dress make you all but invisible to me. Oh, no, it's entirely my fault for wearing black, I'm sure. From now on, you must dress in white from head to toe whenever you come here. Now then, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, my lord? I'm right here. Kill me now. Is something wrong? Perhaps it's a little too hot in here for you. Oh, no, not at all. I mean, I've never experienced a room at such perfect temperature. If you're sure, the beads of sweat carving their way down your face seem to suggest otherwise. Because of the daggers you're staring at me with, mainly. As you're no doubt aware, my International Forensic Science Symposium begins tomorrow. In fact, your father arrived in London earlier today, I hear, madam. Oh, yes, that's right, my lord. He's extremely honored to have been invited. I'll leave the remaining preparations for the meeting room in your capable hands then, Lord Van Zeeks. We'll attend at once. Gave you a very cold stare as he left, didn't he? I know, but I haven't done anything, have I? These past few days, my feet have barely touched the ground, I must say. My dedicated right hand of many years was recently put out of action in spectacular fashion. Why, I'm sorry to hear that. Is your left hand still of service? Mr. Naruhodo, he's talking about Dr. Scythe. Of course. I'm terribly sorry about that. I was just, Fear not. You've done nothing wrong. Dr. Scythe's own wrongdoing precipitated the situation. You needn't concern yourself with it any further. It'd be a lot easier to do if it weren't for the piercing stare you're giving me. Lord Van Zeeks is doing an admirable job of holding the fort, though disturbingly his apprentice has been missing since yesterday. Oh, missing? What's become of Kazuma-sama now? Not long ago, visitor numbers to the Great Exhibition exceeded 30 million. 30 million? Are there even that many people in the world? As a comparison, Mr. Naruhodo, the population of the imperial capital Tokyo is 2 million. I will be opening the International Forensic Science Symposium in the exhibition's main auditorium. This event has been 2 years in the making, 2 years of preparations and negotiations with other countries. It sounds like a tremendous achievement. Congratulations. The 20th century will see the wholesale adoption of forensic investigation techniques, and cooperation between policing organizations around the globe will be essential. Which is why this landmark first symposium had to be hosted here at the heart of our great British Empire, in order that Scotland Yard can become the leading investigative organization in the New World. He's the same as ever, I see. That passion of his is quite something. You're every bit as passionate in your own way, I'm sure, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm the only person in this country who truly cares about a future that embraces forensic science. It was my intention to become Her Majesty's Attorney General and reform the Yard from the ground up. So the disgrace of the forensic investigation team has been a bit of blow to my ambitions. I first established the forensic investigation team a year ago, experimentally, to start with. With Dr. Scythe at the helm, it was steadily accruing an impressive record of achievement. I was on the verge of changing its name and elevating its status to a full-blown forensic investigation department. And can you not do that now? Obviously, nobody wants to hear anything about it at the moment. Even I can't keep this story out of the papers. 6 million Londoners will be cursing forensic science now. This incident will set back our country's advancement in the field by a good 10 years, I'd say. Unintended repercussions of our trial. We simply couldn't have overlooked what had happened, though. Of course not. We should all be grateful to you both. Anyway, I'll still reform this country's policing when I become Attorney General. This might delay my plans, but it won't alter them. Nothing will stand in my way. Not that one again, damn it. I meant to... About Lord Van Zeek's apprentice. Oh yes, that came as a surprise to me, I must say, that you and he are old friends. How did he become an apprentice to Lord Van Zeek's in the first place? It came about 3 months ago. An unidentified Asian man was apprehended by border police. They found him hiding aboard a large goods vessel. Oh my, so he stowed away to get here. He had no papers to identify him, no passport, and he was suffering from amnesia too. Other than the fact he was clearly of Eastern descent, there were no clues as to who he was. So I decided to assign him to Lord Van Zeek's. That way I could keep an eye on him. But then, why the mask? I didn't want to burden Lord Van Zeek's with tiresome explanations about why he had an Eastern apprentice, because it would be so much easier to explain why he was wearing a mask. He's proving to be a great help to Lord Van Zeek's. I have high hopes for his future. By the way, do you know where he's gone? No idea, but I believe he's left London for the time being. Oh. I take it you also didn't know that the man's father was one of our country's most infamous criminals, I mean. In Shinasogi. What we learnt from that trial 8 days ago was a huge shock. Finding out my friend's father was... Ah, yes, Shinasogi. The professor case 10 years ago caused great stir here in Britain. They were such awful murders, and unprecedented, using a ferocious dog as a murder weapon. And no one could have believed the culprit was a foreign student invited to study here by the government. So the true identity of the killer couldn't be made public then, and can't be made public now. Nobody in your country knows it was him, neither do the citizens of London. The main motivation was to avoid aggravating relations between our two nations at the time, I understand. Correct. However, it has to be noted that there were some supporters of the professor's apparent cause. What? Supporters of a mass murderer? The majority of the man's victims were a blight on the aristocracy of the day. Somewhat ironically, their deaths actually benefited society as a whole. Or so a fair few thinkers in London believed, anyway. Right, I see. But it was still murder, wasn't it? It seems very similar, doesn't it? To the idea of the Reaper of the Bailey. Okay. I guess we could ask him if he knows anything about that. No. Could I show you this, Lord Strongheart? I'm the Lord Chief Justice. I'm not here to offer advice about evidence. No. Especially when the evidence in question is so dull. Ah, so that's the real reason. Okay. Anything to examine? It doesn't look any different than before. Just sitting behind the desk must make you feel so important, don't you think? Would you like to have an office like this, Mr. Naruhodo? With such a grand desk? Who, me? No. I don't think so. Oh? Well, imagine if you suddenly found yourself needing the toilet. You'd have so far to go. How true. Perhaps the important people who work in ostentatious offices like this haven't considered such things. Perhaps it's built into the chair. I'm going to take that as a compliment. Alright. Well... So we already been there. Shall we return home that we've no further business here? Okay, fine. Ah, here's my guest now, my latest client, with money to spend. Oh, I do hope it's an exciting case, Ellie. Remember, Iris, we are at present gripped by the greatest problem known to man. I must be willing to accept any case, no matter how unstimulating. Save locating a runaway, of course. Don't spare anyone's feelings, will you? Oh dear, I'm afraid that Hurley can lack a little tact, especially just before the rent is due. Oh, whack. Oh, it's her. Mr. Sholmes, Mr. Herlock Sholmes, please, oh, please. Please find my husband. He's run away. To upset me? I beg your pardon? Never mind. A personal matter. My apologies. What exactly are you trying to say, Mr. Naruhodo? I didn't say a word. Come, my dear madam, be seated. There is some tea, if you please. Of course. What's the matter, Mrs. Otto? Oh, it's just that gentlewoman. I feel sure I've seen her somewhere before. Very recently. Yes, now you come to mention it. She was a juror. As I explained earlier, my name is Evie Vigil. I implore you to take the case, sir. Money is no object. Simply name your figure. Oh. Money and wealth are of little consequence to me, madam. Being offered a case to solve is reward enough. Oh, Mr. Sholmes, you are the picture of benevolence. I will, of course, make a mental note of your offer, however, for contingent reasons. I trust you will remember your words also. If I might inquire, sir, this gentleman and lady would be... Oh, me? What I am about to tell you, I should like to communicate in the strictest confidence, you understand? Ah, these are my friends. I assure you, you may say before this pair anything which you may say to me. I see. I can vouch for the gentleman personally, after all. He's hard of hearing. Did I ever get my hopes up? Oh, we're gonna talk to her? Okay. Forgive me for asking, Mrs. Vigil, but have we met somewhere before? Quite recently, perhaps? Oh my! Pshaw, my dear fellow, what is your intention? Clearly you have no ability to differentiate the facial features of the English. If you wish to invite the lady to tea, you must do so in a more gentlemanly fashion. Is it possible that you're the nice young lawyer from the trial I attended last week? Ah, I knew I recognized her. I guess you're not supposed to have played the game recently. Since that last time... I didn't quite recognize her because she's acting so differently now. It must be very difficult for you as a lawyer. Being hard of hearing, I mean. Pardon? Oh dear, I'm so sorry. Don't worry if you can't hear. It was frippery, really. Nothing more. Now look what you started, Mr. Sholmes. Thank you very much. I believe it would be prudent for you to sit quietly in the corner. Yes. Tell us about your husband, madam. Mr. Vigil, my Daly is 40 years of age. I have a photograph here. An entirely unremarkable gentleman, by appearance at least. How long have you been married? It will be 15 years this year. We have a cordial relationship, and my husband's income is more than adequate, so we live quite comfortably. As it would appear. I need only look at you to know these things. Oh, gosh. Your dress is the latest style, your hat clearly regularly groomed, and your eyes are animated. In short, you have no inkling as to why your husband might have disappeared, correct? That's right. He's a kind man with a strong sense of loyalty, and he rather dotes on me. Which would point to the possibility that he has become embroiled in some incident or other. Oh, that is exactly what I fear must have happened, Mr. Sholmes. I'm quite beside myself. My husband's employment is somewhat unusual, you see. What if he's incurred some miscreant's ill will? What exactly is your husband's line of work? He's a warder at the prison. A guard? That is somewhat unusual. So, your husband is a prison warder. That's right, yes. Well, in actual fact, he's the chief warder, actually. Oh, indeed. See. Well, chief prison warder certainly qualifies as something of a specialist occupation. Yes, it does indeed. My poor husband must prepare those dreadful punishments and see that they're carried out. Dreadful punishments. Does she mean capital punishments? And at such times he must occasionally spend a night or two in the prison dormitory. But for the extra responsibility he is remunerated more handsomely than the other warders. Of course, we make no mention of my husband's work to the neighbors. Yes, I believe your prudence is justified. And tell me, at what prison is your husband engaged? Berkeley Prison, Mr. Sholmes. Really? Berkeley? Oh, a fine establishment. If I'm not mistaken, there is a large cemetery just behind it. Yes, that's correct. Lowgate Cemetery. No. Lowgate Cemetery? The very place we were discussing in court? That's unbelievable. Unbelievable, my dear fellow. And yet undeniable. You can read my thoughts, too. Sorry, Mr. Sholmes, I'm afraid you've lost me. Ah, pay no heed, madam. Pay no heed. Private matter. This can't really be coincidence, can it? So, to the matter of your husband's disappearance. When did you realize he was missing? Please try not to laugh. It was yesterday. I'm sorry, yesterday? It really is recent. Laughably so. The truth is, my husband does at times have occasion to spend the night away from his work. Or his work, whatever. It's not at all out of the ordinary for him to return home at night. But this is different. For him not to make any contact for a whole day. This has certainly never happened before. Oh, my dear Daly, whatever can have happened? My dear Mrs. Vigil, please, calm yourself. Now then, have you contacted the police? Why, naturally, but sadly, they refused to listen to my pleas as my husband has only been missing for one day. I was asked to wait patiently at home. In truth, Mrs. Vigil, I concur with the police. However, let us not be hasty. I see no reason why we should not engage my deductive powers to track your husband down anyway. Oh, thank you, Mr. Sholmes. And furthermore, let me assure you, a chance to solve the greatest problem known to man for another month has no bearing on my decision. I seek only to put a sweet smile on another Londoner's face. That's really all there is to it. You have my eternal gratitude. I shall pay any sum you care to mention. You seek only to put this sweet's rent in your landlady's purse. That's all there is to it. Thank you for everything you have shared with us, Mrs. Vigil. I believe I have all the information I need to begin my investigation. Oh, please report to me as soon with good news, sir. Fear not, madam. In a day or two, I shall be contacting you with a heartening report, I'm quite sure. So soon? Oh, how splendid, Mr. Sholmes. Good news should be delivered early, I always say. If you would be so kind as to leave the photograph of your husband in my possession. The photograph of Mr. Vigil has been entered into the court record. Thank you. Now, allow me to show you the door. Let's look at the picture first, even though we've already seen it. I'm sure that gate is probably going to be a clue we're going to need or something later on, huh? I can't thank you enough, Mr. Sholmes. You've been simply marvelous. You know, I think it every time, Hurley, but how do you come out with such nonsense? Good news in a day or two? Are you sure? I can't be sure, of course, but then I didn't swear on it. I merely gave the good woman some hope. I hope to be able to give her good news, one might say. After all, the rent must be paid by the end of day tomorrow. If by that time I've successfully located Mr. Vigil, we shall be mutually relieved. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? Don't look at me with those pleading eyes. Well, my dear fellow, did you hear the details of the case? Yes, my hearing is surprisingly good, actually. Excellent. And what did you make of it? Well, I was surprised to learn where her husband worked, at Barclay Prison, I mean. Ah, so you noted that. Of course, especially with the mention of Lowgate Cemetery. Lowgate Cemetery is at the rear of Barclay Prison. It is renowned among students to be haunted by ghosts of condemned convicts. Barclay Prison is where that notorious man was incarcerated. Professor. And now a warder from the prison has mysteriously disappeared, it would seem. All very peculiar. Indeed. But nothing you can't handle, I'm quite certain, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? Run along to the prison and see what you can glean. Would you? It's the prison governor you want. No doubt the man is equally worried. But aren't you going to go yourself? Surely you needn't ask. I can't possibly be seen with his hair. But didn't you go to Lime Street with that hair? That was quite a different matter. So I leave it in your capable hands. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm rather busy. Of course you are. All right, well, I guess we just move on then. Prison Governor's Office. We haven't been here yet, have we? No, Susato, no, we have not. Barclay Prison is on the outskirts of London, backing onto a lonely burial ground. Its 4 high outer walls loomed quietly before us in the fog. Having requested a meeting, we were shown to the governor's office in the watchtower. A bit macabre. And that poor bird. Place is full of hardened criminals. I can't. Oh shit. we gotta channel Willie again. I kind of remember the last time a civilian was down here. He didn't want to talk to an inmate, but to me. Again, who I am. I'm the governor. Barry Kaiden? We'll go with Kaiden. Oh, yes, it's a pleasure. I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. And an Easterner, I see. Does that mean... Yes, I'm a visiting student of law from the Empire of Japan. Japan? Did you say Japan? Yes? Well, there's no any of your kind in here, laddie. Maybe you should try the prison next door, eh? I didn't notice another prison next door, sir. Anyway, we came to ask you some questions, but I didn't like to be so direct, but... I've no intention of speaking with the likes of you suspicious-looking Easterners. Oh boy. Now get out of me here. As soon as he finds out that we're from Japan, he reacts like this. This surely means... I think it's because of the professor case. You think so too? 10 years ago, Kenshi Nasogi, also known as the Professor, was incarcerated at this prison. Then, after his execution, he apparently re-emerged from his grave in the cemetery behind the prison. I might have known. Sniffing around about that case, aren't you? Your agency. Part of the Professor's great web, no doubt. No, not at all. We're just... Get going with you, before I punch your lights out. We're going. Clearly the ghost of that killer still haunts this place. We're not going to get anywhere here. Seriously, that is animal cruelty for that bird. Unless we can somehow prove to this man there's nothing suspicious about us. Governor Kaiden. What are you thinking, Miss Usato? I feel sure that name came up in conversation recently somewhere. I was wondering if whoever mentioned him might have some ideas to help us. Come to think of it, I had the same feeling. Okay, but who mentioned that? Can we look around first? Say it, get out. Okay, apparently no. Well, she always gives this hint. I don't believe we've visited this place for some time. We must go back. That's Professor Mikotoba over there. Hello, you two. I was just taking a moment to catch up on the world now that I'm unpacked. But where's Judge Jigoku? Yes, he's not the relaxing sort. He's taken himself off to pay his respects to all the legal bigwigs. Having only just arrived in the country today? Goodness, he is full of energy. Professor, you mentioned something before about how you'd known the prison governor at Barclay Prison. Oh, Governor Kaiden, you mean? So it is the same man. I'm willing to bet it's Kaiden. But I want to see what the original kana looked like. You can always tell how the Japanese interpret sound, because when they use katakana, it's an approximation of the sound rather than the spelling, which is more helpful, I feel. Father, we must speak with the governor. But he refuses to talk to us. He said we were suspicious Easterners. Well, I'm sure if I accompanied you, it would be a very different story. Oh, would you? That would be wonderful, if you have time now. Sadly, as you can see, I'm very busy at the moment. Busy drinking coffee on a comfortable settee? Now, I have rather a lot to prepare for tomorrow, you know. Oh, sorry. I didn't say that out loud, did I? It's hard to tell these days. You Mikotobas are alarmingly good at reading people's thoughts. Or could it be that you Naruhodos are alarmingly bad at hiding your thoughts? Let's not fall out now. I have an idea. What's he writing on that piece of paper? Here's a letter of introduction for you. Hopefully when he sees my name, he'll change his tune. Yeah, thank you. The letter of introduction has been entered into the court record. Good luck then. Okay, I guess that's all we needed. Let's see what this actually says. Professor Mikotoba has wonderful handwriting, doesn't he? This dark-suited young man is not in the least bit untrustworthy. Is it just me, or does that make me sound extremely untrustworthy? I do wish he'd at least call you a nice young man. Really not sure that would help. Can we spin this around? Blackbird line. Oh, it looks like this is some sort of steamship ticket. The SS Grouse, First Class Cabin 001. Yokohama departure the 11th of September, London arrival the 1st of November. Ah, that's the boat that Professor Mikotoba and Judge Chigoku came on from Japan, isn't it? Yes, I think it's called at Dunkirk on the north coast of France for a night before finally arriving in Dover. I think it's been almost a year since we arrived in Dover on the SS Buria. It seems a shame not to keep your ticket as a memento of your trip, don't you think? Yes, I agree. I have mine safely in my diary, and I keep mine in my wallet, so I have it with me at all times. Oh, well, how strange. Where could it have gone? Are you like this on purpose, Mr. Naruhodo? Did I imagine it, or was that comment accompanied by a little sigh? The details of the letter of introduction have been updated. Okay, I guess we're gonna need this. Now we can move back to the governor's office. Present. If you just cast your eyes over this, Governor Kaiden, I bet it's Kaiden. Hold on a minute. Indeed it is. And just to show you how screwed up linguistic transliteration is, it says initially that it's pronounced as in K-E-Y, so you're thinking, oh, it's actually Keaton, and then it says, no, E-Y as in A. Fuck. God, can we just pick one actual... Anyway. What's this then? You kind of pull the wool over my eyes. You good-for-nothing Japanese student. Mikotoba. That young joke from the forensics laboratory. That Mikotoba. Yes, exactly, him. Dear, perhaps I should have said something sooner. I'm Eugene Mikotoba's daughter, Susato. Jinx, you're the young man's daughter. And you didn't think to mention that before. I do apologize. Aye, well, you'd best take a seat then. Can I offer you a cup of tea, perhaps? I didn't forget to try one of these wee handcuff biscuits. Your father's influence is nothing short of amazing. I bitterly regret not announcing who I was from the outset now. So then, what can I do for you, Hidden? Well, we're currently investigating a case. It's one of your warders, you see. He's gone missing. Missing? That's right, it's surely been reported to you as well, being the prison governor. I haven't heard nothing of the sort. There's no missing persons in my prison. Oh? But how can that be? It's Mr. Daily Vigil, your chief warder. Eh, Vigil? That's right, his wife came to us and asked us to investigate his disappearance. You see the pun here, the play on words, the joke of the name of Daily Vigil, a man who watches prisoners. Let's skip the part about him only going missing yesterday for now. Clearly that means something to him. Would you be so kind as to tell us what you know, sir? Aye, of course. We understand that Mr. Vigil is the chief warder here at the prison. Aye, that he was. Strong sense of responsibility and dedicated to the job, no doubt about it. He was a fine warder. Sorry, did you say was? Aye, he does no work here no more. He left the job. Why? Oh, when was this exactly? Here's a question. When was it about? It can't have been much less than 10 years ago now. What? 10 years ago? He stopped working here 10 years ago? Aye, as I minded. You can, I haven't heard of the fellow's name in all that time. That's a worry if he's gone missing, though. But Mrs. Vigil made no mention of it. I think perhaps, Mr. Naruhodo, that his wife simply doesn't know. I think she's unaware that he no longer works here. Governor Kaiden, can you tell us what happened? Why did Mr. Vigil give up his job here? That's important, is it? Yes, I believe it may be. What are you thinking, Mr. Naruhodo? I can't help wondering, given that it was 10 years ago. Ah, which was exactly when the professor was being held at this prison. So Mr. Vigil actually resigned from the position of chief warder 10 years ago, you're telling us. What happened to make him leave the job? In actual fact, he didn't leave the job willingly. Willingly. He had no choice in the matter. You mean he was dismissed? It was after a particular walk. Sorry, a walk? Aye, that's where the word for it in here. A walk to the gallows. An execution. It's the job of the chief warder to prepare the gallows tree and oversee any executions, you see. Only, Vigil did something unthinkable in that last walk. He was manning. What did he do? I'm sorry, but I cannot reveal that information. But I can tell you that it's very rare for a chief warder to be relieved of his post. But why wouldn't Mrs. Vigil know about it? She appears to be under the impression that her husband still works here. I wouldn't have known anything about that, I'm afraid. Can you perhaps answer one more question about the circumstances of his dismissal? And what would that be, Hen? Well, that last execution that Mr. Vigil was responsible for overseeing, was it by any chance the professor's? My thoughts exactly. I'm sorry, I really am. But I'm at no liberty to answer that. Let's see. My father came to Britain all those years ago in order to study forensic medicine. But you seem to have been well acquainted. The dead room, the prison, and the cemetery have a lot to do with that. A lot to do with one another. For all, they need fresh corpses for forensics research. See again. Yes, I can imagine. The advancement of medical science isn't always particularly palatable. My father worked in the laboratory just on the far side of the graveyard, in the basement of St. Sinner's. It's still in use today. St. Sinner's. That's come up before, I'm sure. Yes, that's right. We've been there. Kotoba and Aft used to ride in a carriage together and negotiate terms. For more fresh material, I suppose. Aye, and we used to sit in there for hours and gab on about dissection and all sorts. Oh, it takes me back. Over a pot of tea and a plate of cuff biscuits, of course. How charming. He was a good fellow, your father. Reliable and dead set on his work. But I'm afraid I'll never understand you Japanese. Because of Ginshi Nasogi, I suppose. Well, I cannot tell you anything else. Thank you so much for your time, Governor. Oh, one moment before you're away, then. I'm sure I have it here somewhere. Ah, found it. Here, take this as a wee souvenir of your visit to the prison. Visit? That's Vigil's dismissal notice. Jesus, I've lost this completely now. It's 10 years old now, of course. My, are you sure? It's no trouble at all. It's not the original, mind. Vigil's dismissal notice has been entered in the court record. Thank you very much, Governor Caden. Well, in return, do me a favor and never come back here. Okay, that case is closed. Well, I think we ought to return to Baker Street for the time being. Yes, I agree. We need to report back to Mr. Sholmes with what we found out about Mr. Vigil. Okay, but can we look around? What will he tell Mrs. Vigil, I wonder? Let's look. Ah, look, we have an opportunity here now while the governor is away. Mr. Naruhodo, you would be imprisoned if you were caught. That's a good point. Perhaps not then. Really? All of this was looked at? All of this was like, okay. Check out the court record here. Notice of dismissal. Chief Warder Daily Vigil is relieved of his post with immediate effect for having violated Clause 132 of Her Majesty's Code of Conduct for Prisons. What is it? All rights to redundancy pay and other financial benefits are fully revoked. Aiding and abetting the escape from this prison of convict, blah blah blah, just prior to his execution. Details of this escape are still being investigated. Full cooperation with inquiries to be expected. Okay, I think we know who that is. Indications are that the jailbreak plot was conceived prior to the convict's incarceration. It's believed the convict engaged in some form of negotiation with prison staff in order to secure assistance. Full disclosure of information regarding these negotiations will be demanded. Sholmes' suite. Come on. We're back. Hello, you two. I thought you'd be back before long, so I baked some scones for us all. Ah, so that's what the delicious smell is. Greetings, my dear fellows. You've returned a good deal sooner than I was anticipating. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Hello, Mr. Sholmes. Say nothing. Your thoughts are written all over your faces in any case. It turns out that it may have been advisable to test my hair color restoration tonic before application. Oh my. Pray, tell me, what of our warder friend? Have you garnered some new information? Oh, yes, something very surprising in fact, though it's not a patch on your hair, to be honest. It most certainly isn't, but still, we discovered that... Sholmes? Oh. Drop everything, Sholmes. This is important. Gina? I can't Adam and Eve it. Oh, she lost the dog. What's happened? Clearly a very grave matter indeed. Miss Lestrade made no mention of my hair whatsoever. It's the boss. What do you mean? Inspector Gregson? The boss is... He's dead. What? They just found his body, shot with a pistol. Nani? But... Inspector Gregson? He was murdered? No, not Gregsy. Come in, my dear girl. Tell us the whole story. Are you serious, Gina? Inspector Gregson was... he was really shot? Oh, I don't know much about what happened myself yet. They're still there investigating the scene. So you don't know that he's dead, just that he's shot. Where did this take place? A little rented room in a building full of flats in Fresno Street. The outskirts of town. Nowhere near his home. He was perhaps investigating a case then. The thing is, no one at the yard knows nothing about no case round there. Oh, how strange. The boss he was so good to me. I know I ain't up to much yet, but one day I was going to show him. I'd been a proper detective. Oh, Ginny. So who did this? Do you have any idea who the culprit is? They got him already. Already? They've caught the shooter so soon? A witness reported something was going on, and the boys got straight down there and took care of him. Who? What awful person did this? I still can't believe it myself. Gina. It was the Reaper. Wait a minute, you don't mean they've arrested Lord Van Zeeks for it? That's right. That Reaper bloke's gone and shot the boss. No, Lord Van Zeeks? Are you quite sure, Miss Lestrade? It's Barracks Van Zeeks the police have arrested. Saw him with my own eyes. In the interview room at the yard. I don't believe it. But there were witnesses, and they're all saying it was him. So are we going to have to defend Lord Van Zeeks in this one? Is that what this is? So you mean there were actually multiple witnesses? They heard the gunshot, apparently. And when our lot got to the scene, there was only the boss and the Reaper bloke in the room. But there's no way Lord Van Zeeks would have taken Gregson's life. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it either. Thank you for informing us, Miss Lestrade. This really is most terrible news. I'm dreadfully sorry. What are you saying sorry for? You didn't do nothing. Well, anyway, I'm taking a cab over to the scene right now. Please come in all, as soon as you can. You've got to help. It's a detective's lot to appear whenever some sinister plot has unfolded. Little wonder we all look haggard. Sometimes these things are almost too much for the nerves. Mr. Sholmes. What use is there in being a great detective if I fail to see something like this coming, How could I let this happen to Gregson? To Gregson? Mr. Naruhodo, I shall leave at once to begin my investigations. Of course, yes, we will too. It would be helpful if you could talk to Mr. Reaper and see what you can glean. I'm sure you were intending to do so anyway. Until later, then. Inspector Gregson, dead, and Lord Van Zeeks arrested. No, Susie. I've called you a hansom. It's waiting outside. Thanks, Iris. Shall we, Miss Susato? Yes. Let's go. A new location's been added. The prison. Lord Van Zeeks has been arrested. What on earth is happening? Alright. I feel like we're going down a whole nother path here, so I'm going to end this one here. I'll see you next time.